You have to admit, it's simply a divine game with a unique atmosphere. Hello, my friend. I'm very happy to see you again. I haven't posted a video in a long time. A lot of important work has been done during this time. Now I'm going to give you a video report on the work that has been done. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the video. To be honest, when I first started working on the fan remaster of Dungeon Siege 2, I thought it would be a very interesting, useful, and enjoyable experience. But I had no idea how wrong I was. Instead of enjoying the process of creating the remaster, I kept encountering serious technical problems and flaws. The process of creating the remaster turned into a painful struggle to find the causes of problems and fix them, which takes a lot of time. But there is no turning back, so I have to keep working. The unique and wonderful atmosphere of this game prevents me from abandoning it. Many useful changes have taken place during this time. In the last video, I demonstrated the titanic work that had been done. If you haven't seen that video yet, you can watch it here. At the end of that video, I announced and promised the Dungeon Siege community that the next step would be to attempt to resurrect the game's multiplayer. This was a very serious challenge for me, because no one had ever done this before. I didn't know what to expect from the game's multiplayer. It was a serious responsibility to the community. I took on this job and began to analyze the game's multiplayer mode very carefully. Then, I needed to figure out which software would be best for the server. In the end, I chose OpenSpy as the server software. Working with OpenSpy was not easy at first, as there are no user manuals for this software, only a general description. In other words, the authors of this software provide you with only basic information, and then you have to figure out how to use it correctly on your own. I successfully figured it out, installed and configured a test server, launched it, and the first launches were successful, and the game's multiplayer began to respond to the test server. This result gave me hope that I was moving in the right direction, so I needed to continue working on this issue. So I provided the Dungeon Siege community with proof that multiplayer could be revived. This gave us hope that we were moving in the right direction. Of course, the community received this news very positively. Although the test server launch was successful, it was still just a test server, and to make sure that everything would actually work properly in real conditions, I needed to port the existing test server to a physical server. So I needed to set up a test server on a separate PC, but I didn't have a second computer. Then I turned to our community, consulted with them, and we decided to raise funds for a test server. Although I knew that this system would work properly on a physical server, it was a big responsibility for me. If the retests failed, I would face disgrace, humiliation, and shame in front of the community. Therefore, the responsibility on me was very great. It is great that the community understood the importance of this situation and began to act in a coordinated manner, collecting donations for a physical server. These are the people who donate so that our cause and our young and promising community can successfully develop and exist. Some of the donors have donated incredible amounts. I would especially like to mention our main sponsor, Sammy's Crazy, who has donated a little over $200 so far. That's incredible! My friend, I am very grateful to you for your generous support. It is very appropriate and timely. I would also like to mention our other donors, such as Zam, who donated $100 right from the start. That's incredible! Thank you, my friend. Thanks to your first significant donation, we were able to raise the necessary amount for the server. Thank you very much, my friend. I would also like to thank the donor under the nickname Talon695. He donated $60. Thank you, friend. It is thanks to people like you that our community exists. A significant amount was also donated by a donor under the nickname Disappointed Bear. Over time, he has contributed no less than $45 to our community. Thank you, friend, for your generous contribution. There are also other sponsors who donated smaller amounts, but the amount of the donation is not important. The main thing is that there is support, and our cause, the community, will develop successfully and prosperously. Unfortunately, I do not know the amount of donations on YouTube because YouTube does not provide such data. As a result of the general fundraising, we were able to collect the minimum amount needed to purchase a server. Then, I selected the appropriate components and offered the community purchase options, and the community voted on the options I proposed. To be honest, I selected the components very carefully to find the perfect balance between price and system performance. But this approach forced me to supplement the components with those I already had, and which I added to the set because I didn't have enough money for additional expenses at the time, and had to make up for the missing components with my own. As a result, I still managed to put everything together properly, and we ended up with this simple server. So, the server was successfully assembled. All that remained was to port the test server to this newly assembled server and check if it worked. But in the end, I installed the server practically from scratch and configured it according to my notes that I had left when I configured the test server. It was a very responsible moment. I felt that few people believed I could do it, and my enemies were already rubbing their hands together, waiting to spread the news of my failure among the people, to the delight of malicious individuals. But on November 3rd, 2025, I am publishing this post. Let's record this day in the history of our community. November 3rd, 2025, the first successful login to the server. I'm speechless. We worked so hard for this, but we did it. It was truly a historic moment. I successfully configured the server, launched it, and successfully created the first game session, successfully testing the game's multiplayer mode, which successfully connected to our community's server. I was overwhelmed with emotion at the time. It was truly important news for our community. I think that this historic event raised the prestige of our community and showed that our young and promising team is truly capable of solving the most difficult tasks. A lot of time has passed since this game fell into decline, and its supporters gradually dispersed, but our community has given everyone hope that this legendary game will be revived by a newly formed and promising community. Honestly, I am very happy about this. I also love this game very much and want it to come back to life. So, the tests on the server were successful. But I needed to conduct control tests before announcing the opening of the server and inviting everyone who wanted to join. But since there were people who envied us, and our server was only in the testing stage and therefore very vulnerable to hacking and damage, I had to select people I trust or know personally for the final server testing. And that day came. I selected people I trust and invited them to try to join the server. They tried to do so, and here's what happened. It was truly incredible. Players were able to successfully connect to the server and even play on it. In this video, I won't go into the technical details of how I set up the network connection so that the server could be successfully connected to, but the fact is that people from the US and other countries were able to successfully connect to a server that is physically located in Ukraine. Some of the testers also noticed the absence of delays and lags, which indicated that the server was configured correctly and that the server hardware itself was powerful. All this made connecting to the server smooth and successful. I would also like to note that connecting to the server did not require adding any third-party files to the game or even opening ports, but this still needs to be verified through additional testing. After these successful tests, I needed to fix a problem with the server. I even found the specific cause of the problem and identified the specific file that needed to be fixed, after which the final server tests were to be conducted, following which the server could be declared open. But some strange things started happening in my life. I had to take a break to deal with some important personal matters. I partially resolved them and gradually returned to working on the server, but decided to upgrade my computer a little. But then, some problems started again. I have a T7910 motherboard, but without the original power supply, which caused problems when turning it on. And once, after turning off the power, it stopped turning on at all. I was very disappointed with this situation, and after thinking carefully about what to do, I came to the conclusion that the reason for the problematic startup could also be the presence of processors that this motherboard should not support. I decided to upgrade my computer to other processors. I upgraded it, started it up, and it turned on and off successfully. Obviously, the problem was with the non-standard processors. Everything worked fine, but then something terrible happened to my computer. When I turned it on again, it booted up successfully. I saw the desktop and said to myself, "I'm so glad to see you again." Then I noticed that one of the drives was not showing up, so I reached in to fix the power supply to that drive and accidentally touched a Molex connector that was on the custom computer startup board. I heard a short circuit sound, and the whole system shut down immediately. And then I realized that something terrible had happened, and I said to myself, no, not this. How could this happen? Then it turned out that the power supply had short-circuited but would no longer start up, and the motherboard was partially starting up but could not boot the BIOS. And then I realized that my computer was dead. This computer is very important and symbolic to me. I assembled it when I left the service, so it has symbolic meaning for me, and its loss is a very painful event for me. I temporarily switched to the server we assembled, having previously informed the community about it, which is why you are now watching this video. So now I am temporarily sitting on the server until I replace my broken computer. But the problems did not end there. From regular sleep deprivation, exhaustion, combat injuries, lack of sleep for several days, working hard without sparing myself, problems piling up on me, I felt very ill. You know, the most frustrating thing about this situation is that while I was in the service, I endured much heavier loads than I do now, but even in war, I did not suffer such damage to my health. But as you watch this video, I am feeling better and gradually recovering, slowly returning to my community and work on the remaster. This will be a good lesson for me, that I shouldn't push myself so hard, because otherwise it could all end badly. But, unfortunately, there is another problem I must mention. Currently, the Russians are actively damaging our energy infrastructure by actively striking it with their missiles, so I often find myself without electricity. It often happens that electricity is only turned on for a couple of hours a day. I think now you understand the conditions in which I have to work on the remaster, and simply live. But we must move forward. I now need to replace my broken computer and buy power batteries so that I can work without interruption. If you want to help me with this, replace my PC, and order power banks, you can help me by becoming a sponsor on Patreon or my YouTube channel. Links to sponsorship will be in the description of this video. There is good news, but unfortunately, I have to end this part of the video. And I really hope that I will be able to share the good news in the next video.